This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody. Today I have some of my black belt friends with me to celebrate our new book coming out March 16th called Black Belt Women, Lessons on Perseverance. You guys, my journey in the martial arts began about 14 years ago when my son and I walked into Gentle East Taekwondo here in Maryland to take a class. I've written about that journey before, but this year I wanted to bring some of my female warrior friends together to write about the lessons and the lifestyle of martial arts. I know that you guys are going to really enjoy getting to know these powerful women. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here. So I have Stephanie Imhoff, is a wife, mother, and mother of two. She is a cardiology certified medical assistant, recent third-degree black belt, and 2015 heavyweight sparring champion. By day, she cares for patients and providers. By night, she teaches 3 nights a week and takes care of her family. You guys can find her on LinkedIn, and I have all of our authors hooked up in the show notes for you guys today. Dr. Solmaz Abu Ali is a professor, author, and practitioner working on sport and conflict resolution. She designs and implements sport-based programs for government, non-governmental organizations, and philanthropic figures. Dr. Abu Ali is also a world champion and 14-time U.S. national champion in traditional karate. Jo Bahari is a mother of 2 living in London. After the birth of her kids, Jo wanted to reclaim something for herself. Having previously dabbled in martial arts, she found a kickboxing studio that not only gave her skills and a place to train, but also a family outside her own. I feel you there, Jo. That feeling is in me too with my family. Rhonda Livingston lives in Miami, running a bustling health and wellness practice. Her martial arts experience was the catalyst in a chain of events that brought her deep healing and set her up for a path to bringing healing to others. She has the pleasure of getting to do this every single day. You guys, thank you so much for being here. And honestly, firstly, thank you for saying yes to this project, for being willing to share your stories, some of you for the very first time in a published way, but for really stepping up to take on the challenge of writing those stories brilliantly and beautifully. So thank you so much. Stephanie, I'm going to start with you. Let's start this party with you. Tell me a little bit about your story and about this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Thanks, Laura. I'm happy to be here. This was a great opportunity to talk about the most amazing part of being a mom and connecting with your child in a way that is just embracing, where you both benefit from it. You grow. For me, I learned from him that passion, that drive. He reignited that drive, and martial arts was not on the radar for him. We did soccer, tiny tots, gymnastics, dance, the whole 9 yards. He was having none of it. And then he happened to be a little boy that did taekwondo, and his mom talked to me about it. So we looked at it, and he was in love. He was absolute love. And then he had to take a break because that program broke down, and then our whole group came from an Ames Park and Rec, and that journey itself was amazing. But the biggest thing was the connection with my son, but also now in the process of learning to do this as my passion, my soul passion, and doing it for me and not for somebody else.
I love how you're talking about that, because I also joined because we're looking for something for my son to do. And those, famous words he said to me, well, I'll do it if you do it. I'm like, well, how could I say no to that? Right. And I had no idea what I was walking into that day, in a really good way, in a really, really good way. But talk to me a little bit more about doing it for yourself. I mean, at that point where you realize that, that's really important.
Well, okay, right before my second dawn testing, I knew my son had already tested for his second dawn like the year before. And I was actually so in awe of watching all of these kids come into their power and find themselves. And I said, wait a second, I don't have to be connected to him for this, because his path is getting ready to change. He's getting ready to explore, which I encouraged him to do that, because that's the time to really find out who you are. But I also discovered in me, I was sad that he was leaving, but I was finding a strength and empowerment of myself that I'm amazing. This is amazing. There are not many of us that do this. There are not many people that will look at something and say, okay, we'll do it, and then carry it all the way through. I mean, I'm a third dawn now. And so my second dawn journey, part of that growth was I refereed more. I started teaching more. Just fell in love with Poomsae. I was a sparrer by nature. Please, I love to kick things. Let me just kick anything. Let me punch anything. Let me make it move. But then I got into that flow and energy, and the thing that I loved about it is I got to tell the story the way I saw it, the way I felt it, and it wasn't right or wrong. And everybody else's version was an awesome version because it was their own. And so that made me connect to myself and not so much have an outer connection to my Taekwondo family and things like that, but to bring it back and really go, wow.
I love that, Stephanie. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your passion too. It's coming through in the way that you talk about it. These conversations are so amazing because there is so much passion for this. And I'm so honored to be bringing your stories to more people so that they can feel that kind of energy. And if the world needs one thing right now, it does need a little bit more, passion and positive, good vibe energy. Solmaz, talk to me about your story and a little bit about this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Thanks, Laura, for having us. Hello, and everyone else tuning in. So the chapter has basically, I guess, two layers of meaning. At the first layer, it's about overcoming obstacles. In this case, it would be size in a martial art that doesn't have any weight or height categories, and so that's traditional karate. So that's what I do. And so I talk about some examples of how I had to deal with and overcome, quote unquote, that obstacle. And I guess at the second layer of the chapter, it's about being a misfit and coming to a place where you recognize that being a misfit is actually a very powerful thing. And that you have, through overcoming obstacles, the opportunity to change perceptions and to change attitudes and behaviors. And so you become this living example of what's possible, where something previously was thought to be impossible.
Yes, with an exclamation point, like a moving, living example. Yes. Okay, I can't tell you how excited I was when I started to read your chapter and I realized you were going to talk about being shorter. Yeah. I just felt so good because I am also not a very tall woman, and I chose a combat sport to, get involved in. So talk to me just a little bit more about that piece of it. I mean, ultimately, martial arts are a bit of an equalizer when it comes to the physical body, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one, you have martial arts, which is It's slightly starting to change, but it's predominantly male dominated sport, right? Or art. That's one. So you're dealing with a lot of that. And then there's also the being smaller than not only just your male colleagues, but your female colleagues as well. And so for me, I'm 5 feet tall, 110 pounds. But in our style, we don't have any categories like this. So you go to a competition and you're, 18 and above or 21 and above, black belt women, period. And you do what you have to do in there. And it's one of and I talked about this in the chapter 2, it's one of the loneliest places to be when you're in a fight. And any fighter knows this. You're in there and it's only you. And so you have to learn to recognize and capitalize on your strengths and to believe in yourself. And sometimes it's possible and sometimes it's not. But the goal is the ultimate success is to keep at it and keep finding a way. And I think that's where that's the point at which we can change these ideas of, okay, well, yes, I'm smaller, I'm tinier, and I may not have as much reach or as much power as you, but I may have speed and I may have certain, fighting strategies and talents that I've honed for years. And that's what I'm going to be able to capitalize. And I can still do what you do, just in a slightly different way.
I love the piece that you're talking about in terms of capitalizing on your strengths. It really forces you to go there. And we have a tendency to always be worried about our weaknesses. And of course, we want to improve in the areas of weakness. However, when you can shift a focus on what you're talking about, I think it makes a big difference. Did you end up doing that right away? Did it take you a while to figure out that part?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, sometimes I felt like I had it and then I was back to zero. So it's kind of like a ping pong game, kind of like riding a bike, you're left, right, until you kind of somehow at some point get it straight. And then once you got it, you got it, you've got that skill and you can kind of switch it on again and you can summon it. And so it took me years of losing. It took me years of being a punching bag. It took me years of just failing. And then, like I said, and then at some point, my passion, I guess, for wanting to do this, wanting to be in a combat sport or art, I should say, it just carried me through, first of all. And then I think it brought something out. It really, I think, strengthened my resolve to win and to succeed, and to achieve these goals. So yearly, I would set these goals and I would have my eye out on certain women or on certain competitions or on certain categories, whether it was sparring or form or kata or kumite, whatever. And I would just go after it. And so it's been a journey, but so sometimes I had it, sometimes I didn't. But I definitely, at this point, 20 years later, feel that I'm at a good place that I could switch it on and off when I need to.
Thank you, Solmaz. Joe, I'm going to slide over to you for this same question. Tell us a little bit about the story that got you here and about this chapter that you wrote.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be part of this journey. It's been a very cathartic process, and hello to everybody on the call and everyone that's tuning in. For me, the story was about finding myself again. Before I had my children, I was somebody. I had a really successful business. I was kind of going places. I was constantly in the news and I felt like I had a high profile. And then I had my kids and my life took a total spin and I didn't know who I was anymore. And after many difficult decisions, I kind of ended up moving away from my business because I needed to dedicate myself to my children. But in that process, I lost a little bit of who I was. And my journey through martial arts helped me find that person again and find my inner strength. It gave me a place to go that wasn't my house. And it gave me a place to not only find myself, but find other people that wanted to support me and help me. And my kickboxing family became an actual family to me, and they still are. So yeah, it was a journey about finding my passion, but also who I was.
I'm writing down notes. I write notes with all of you guys because I'm just like, oh my God, quote that too, and quote that. Y'all are so awesome. So that family doesn't only help you find yourself, they help you find the best possible version of yourself. And I think that's why it feels so amazing and why we're all using the word family. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think the thing that made me realize that they were a family to me was when I was struggling at different points in terms of my gradings. And I was like, oh, I can't go for my green belt. I'm not ready. I don't feel like it's the right time for me. But actually, I felt like I would let everybody else down if I didn't. And so I used them to motivate me to work harder, to push even further, to go and attain the next level and the next goal, because they were supporting me and they were pushing me. So that's when I realized that they were an actual family, because that's what family do. It helps lift you up when you are down. And I felt like if I didn't meet those targets, or at least try, then I'd be letting them down. So yeah, that's when I kind of realized they're definitely a family.
Wow. And I think that's what an excellent kind of family does, right? So I'm listening to you thinking, well, we don't all have that kind of real family in real life. I know there's probably listeners too are like, well, that's not what's happening in my world, and I guess the thought there is that you can seek it elsewhere, and these places exist, and it's just to know for sure, because I believe what you just said, that is what a good family does for each other. And everybody has to be doing it. It's 2-way, 3-way, 4-way street, right? But when you get into a place where everyone has the same goal, because we all do, if we're all training, we all have a particular goal in there, then part of the journey is to help each other get there, not to knock each other down, right?
Yeah, and I think actually, especially for women, it's really important to have that outside of your actual family, because then, I felt like I could really be myself there. I wasn't doing anybody's washing. I wasn't worrying about people's homework. I wasn't thinking about the cooking. I was only thinking about me and the other people in that dojo and how important they were and how we were all connected and a unit. And that was really special.
It is. Oh my gosh. Yes, for sure. All right, Rhonda, moving over to you. Let's hear your story a little bit. I know a little bit of this story. I'm so happy that you're here sharing it today.
I'm really happy to have participated in this project and to get to long distance meet some amazing women. I think like most of us, I actually started this journey not for me, but for my children. I met my instructor through one of my previous employment with a bank, and he saw my picture of my kids on my desk, and he was like, oh, bring the kids by, like you can, do a free class. And I was like, it's great, because I was looking for something that I could have both of my children active in together. They're 3 years apart, a daughter and a son. So, I convinced them to go do this thing with mom, and oh my God, I was so nervous. And I get there and they're not all that thrilled, but I'm like, what is this? This is amazing. It was mind-boggling how the moment that I walked into that little place, it was home. It was home. And it was, as you said, not all of us have the home family that we would like. And I came from a pretty rocky background. So for me to walk into a place and have that immediate set, like, oh, this is what I've been missing. And this is what I've been trying to give to my children. So for the 3 of us to be able to do something together was phenomenal. And it ended up being where we all kind of went on our own little paths. And it really was. It's very individual, even though you're with everybody. You're all heading towards that goal, but you can't give it to me. You can't give it to me. It's each little piece. And that was really the catalyst to a lot of things. That was like my first real infusion of courage.
I love that. You got a party going on there. I can hear it.
Party going on downstairs.
You say that was your...
I have to close the door.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Oh my goodness. I think we all need to fly to Miami right about now. All right. So, Joe, I'm going to flip back to you for just a minute for this next question. And I'm going to ask all of you this next one. Listen, the practice of awareness, I think, is foundational. It's foundational in martial arts, but it's also foundational for a freaking awesome life, right? And so when we're in it, in all of the different ways we can be in the practice of awareness, we get these opportunities. And I want you guys to talk a little bit about this. So, Joe, how has that practice been for you personally?
Well, I think it has allowed me to see that in other parts of my life where I am struggling or there is a hurdle that I don't feel like I can meet, being part of this martial arts process and pushing myself in the martial arts world has made me realize that actually I can just dig into that perseverance and that drive and find it in other parts of my life. So instead of giving up so easily on projects or opportunities that I might not have pushed for, I look back at what I have achieved in my kickboxing journey, and that gives me the motivation and the drive to move forward in other areas.
I think for all of the different areas that we're not feeling quite up to par, where we don't feel like there's the motivation or the inspiration, or things just aren't going as well as we thought, that's one of the biggest beauties, right? I mean, of martial arts and how you drip it into all of the different areas. Like you're sitting there and you're doing what you're doing in class, and these are big deal things. These are life-changing kinds of mindset shifts, right? And then you pull that into an area of your life and you're like, oh, well, I should really be doing this here too. Like, why am I not doing that here? Anything else you wanted to say about that?
Well, it's funny because my son reminds me quite often when I say, oh, I can't do that, or I'm struggling with that. He's like, but Mommy, you're a black belt. You can do anything. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I can do that. So yeah, it's quite good. He's also helping me remember that awareness about what I've achieved and bringing it into everyday walks of life.
That is so awesome. Oh my goodness. Yes, the kiddos, they keep us in our place, don't they? Okay, Rhonda, I'm coming back to you, girl, for a minute. Shifted into this awareness question. So, and you had said something about courage before the party started there in Miami. And I was resonating with what you said about it being that was a catalyst for you. So if you have more to say about that, I would love to hear that.
I'll try to keep it less than 3 days worth of talking. So considering my background as a young adult, even as a parent, I was not very courageous. I was, always playing it safe and, people pleasing and whatever. I was in a career that I hated. I was in a marriage that was tragic. And I was just stuck. And that to be blunt, there's really something to be said for standing on a mat with a 6'4" man, taking a hit and knowing like, oh, I got this. I'm good. All right. And that does translate to the rest of your life, that awareness, one of your partner who's going to take care of you, that's not always going to be the way it is out in the real world, and knowing that you do have that place of trust here, but bringing that awareness of the mat, of who's around you, the energy in the room, and that going on both pieces there, the courage, let me change positions, jobs, to go into a medical field and be able to do physical therapy and really, really make big impacts for people. Being aware of again, their space, their presence, where they are, regardless of their words, being able to be aware deeper of what's happening made me such a much better PT. So it's 360-degree awareness about all kinds of things. And each accomplishment adds to that courage stack and adds and adds and adds. And then all of a sudden you're like, I have this. I can do all kinds of things. Like, yeah, you're a black belt. You can kick ass. You can do anything.
The big problems seem to shrink a little bit.
And the little problems are not problems anymore.
Exactly.
Everything becomes bite-sized and you can handle it. And you know that you've survived, 3 black belt tests that are grueling and demanding. And at that point where you feel like you're going to give up, and you do end up, like Joe said, going back and accomplishing things because you don't want to let everybody else down. And you're so glad that you have those partners around you to be that little shore up when you falter a little bit.
Yes, no doubt. Thank you for that. Solmaz, let me ask you about the awareness question. So what has that meant for you personally, that practice?
I'm not really sure how to answer this one. I would agree with everything that everyone said so far. First of all, I think I've had similar experiences, and I would hope that anyone listening to this right now that's something that they could take away with them as appealing, and hopefully that would help them to start martial arts also. I'm always trying to recruit more women. But I think I talk about this in the chapter too, just a little bit, or at least I hope I alluded to it. It's that the martial arts space, the training for me, it's kind of been my own personal battleground. And that's how I treat it. And so I go in, and that's where I can be myself in the rawest form. And it's not that I even have to try to be by myself. It's just something about the physical combat part of it, the physical ruling part of it, something about the mind and body, taking both of those on a journey and testing them. It almost, it makes you can't hide from it. It brings out your real qualities, whether you want it or not. As a matter of fact, a lot of my classmates who are also my brothers and sisters, I feel like, they feel like their karate friends, their karate families know them in a way that other people don't. And that's because I think that there's something that kind of somatic, physical, mental training does to you. And so what I've used it at is that I go there and I see what qualities come out, and that basically tells me where I am in life and what state I'm in right now. And so then I will look at other areas of my life and I'll say, oh, so I see that quality coming out right now. And so that's what that is. And so then I'll think, okay, how can I address this? Because is this working for me? Is it not? If it's not, I go back to my battleground, to my training, and I become uber aware of that quality, that status, that condition that I'm in at that point, and I try to knock it out, like physically knock it out, mentally knock it out, through drills, through sparring, through form, through whatever, and it's worked for me. The things that have come out that I like, I make sure it sticks in other parts of my life. The things that don't, I go back to the drawing board. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I continue to train in martial arts so much. And maybe it's hard for sometimes people to understand, well, why do you have to go to practice right now? It's just miss one day a week. It's not about missing one day a week. It's not about making up look like, it's not about that. This is my training. This is my fight. Like, you cannot, nobody can take that away from you. So I guess that's what I would say to that.
I love that. I love that awareness. And, this is one of the most beautiful things about bringing a dozen women together to talk about, lessons on perseverance was our subtitle for this book. And that theme came up a lot. And so we put it there, but y'all know that it doesn't matter how many people you have, they're all going to have a beautiful, different, unique way of speaking about the same thing. And I love the way that you guys are talking about awareness. Stephanie, tell us about this for you. What does this mean for you in terms of your personal practice?
Well, just now, with Solmaz's statement about her being small and tiny made me aware again of the fact that I don't fit the traditional model of what you would see on the mat, whether it be as a sparrer or someone doing poomsae. I'm a larger woman. I'm not small. My personality is big. I'm big. And never in my mind did I not think I couldn't do this until someone said to me, and it was a complete stranger. It was at nationals. Thank God it was after I competed in Pumse. We had just done Chung One, which, you know, that 360 crossing kick in there. Someone said to me, wow, you're light on your feet for such a big woman. And that didn't resonate until someone said that. And I took it in the wrong direction. And she came back and clarified lately. She goes, that sounded really bad. And that wasn't a criticism. It was the fact that here I am, because she was maybe $120, this perfect version of the most elegant, beautiful person. And she said, I'm heavy-footed. So I can no longer use the excuse that I'm too big for my size, and that's why I land heavy or do something heavy. But the size thing, because I don't like to use my size as intimidation or anything like that. I am who I am, and I'm built the way I'm built, and I'm okay now with being a bigger person in this art and not fitting into that box, because I think in the end it allows people to see who you are. The art of martial art has made me a better medical assistant in cardiology. It's that nonverbal storytelling that I think the martial arts has really brought to the fact, because my first degree was in communications and music. So I watch people, because I always believe your body, your face, everything you will tell me everything that words do not. Your body will tell me the truth before you will. And so in observing people and recognizing the way I need to change my approach, because I don't approach every patient the same. They're different. They may have the same problems, but their needs are totally different. So then I can turn around and communicate something to the provider that maybe the provider won't see because they're caught up in the let me get my day, versus looking at this individual. And that's the big thing about I see you. Martial arts has helped me look at each person and say, I see you.
What a gift, right? I remember feeling that way, a gift given to me by Master Holloway. I felt seen from the first day. And I also realized that a lot of other people around me felt seen. I could see it happening. I could see what he did, no matter who it was, lined up in that line. The 6 foot tall businessman, the 5.5-year-old son, the girl with autism. I mean, I could go on and on, right? About the way this was for me from the very beginning, extremely inclusive. And Solmaz was saying, you know, this is my fight. So like when you step in there and you realize this is going to be a personal journey, and you have people around you, I don't know, making magic, making that happen, just helping you get to that place. It's such a powerful thing. I love that, Stephanie. Thank you.
Stephanie, let me just say something directly sorry to interrupt, Laura.
No, go for it.
Okay. Hell yes, you should intimidate. Use your size to intimidate. Why wouldn't you use your size to intimidate? Some people in this world need to be intimidated in order to give you the respect that you deserve. And so if you have size, if that's what's working for you, you use that size to intimidate. So don't I'm not saying this lightly. You know, I'm not saying go and knock someone down on their butt, but I'm just saying, like, you know what you have and use it, because we all have something. We just have to find it and then just use the heck out of it.
Yeah, you were
use
talking.
Your tools.
Yes, and you were talking earlier about your strengths. Really understanding what your strengths are. I think that's beautiful. Beautiful. So, Solmaz, I'm going to start this next question with you. We talk about perseverance. It's one of the tenets in Taekwondo. And I know that you all of you have had wins because you took perseverance on, like seriously. You know, you realized at some point you were not going to quit. It wasn't an option. And so then you're only moving forward, right? So talk to us about perseverance. Like, what's been a win in your life because you had that?
What's been a win in
your life?
In other parts of my life, non-martial arts parts of my life?
I'll let you take that in any direction.
Oh boy. Repeat the question again. What's been a win?
Well, so you guys, like when I think about this in the book world, and when I decided to write my very first book, listen, if I wasn't going to sit my ass down in that seat and write for an hour a day and really persevere through the inner critic that said, who's going to want to read this? This isn't going to be good enough. But I persevered in knowing to take the action. I took the action, I persevered there. But the win was that I got to the end of that journey and actually published this beautiful thing that ended up changing some lives. That's a huge win, right? We have wins in our lives in lots of different ways because we persevered. And so I was just looking for one of your personal moments.
Yeah, so I guess that would be a most recent one would be, so I have been chasing, so I do traditional karate, but we have similar tenets to Taekwondo, where perseverance is one of them. And so it took me I've been chasing a world championship for many years. And so I got the world championship recently. It was 2018. It was a year after my daughter was born. My first baby was born. And I always thought it would be before.
Wow.
So I said, let me knock out that gold medal, do it. And then, pop out some babies. And, but then, so turned out to be the opposite. And so in the middle of all that, I still had my dissertation just looming above my head like a big cloud. And so what I did was, I think it was October 2018 that I became a world champion. And I basically then realized at that point, okay, look, I had my baby. I took my body through this, did it, recovered, won this championship, persevered. So now I can do this with the dissertation. So basically starting November, I sat my behind down and just put everything together, brought it all the pieces together and wrote the thing. And then 7-8 months later, I was defending my dissertation and just knocked it out of the park. And so that was 2019. And so it was, I guess that's a good example of like a recent moment, how just knowing that I could do it again through that battleground of karate, knowing that I could finally achieve that goal, even in the midst of other things like having a baby, then yes, I could actually sit down and finish a dissertation too.
This deserves the badass emoji. I'll give you the badass emoji for that.
I will take it.
That is so awesome. Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we all have done some pretty amazing things. I think we don't focus on our wins enough. We are always achieving and then on to the next achievement rather than just sitting and basking for a moment and really understanding where we've been and what we're made of and what we have achieved. So I love to just pause in the wins with people who I know have had big ones. Rhonda, I'm going to ask you this question about perseverance and what's been one of your wins because of it?
Actually, it was a combo win. Like I said, martial arts and that whole experience did definitely put me on the path to change my career. So it got me through 2 times of going back to school. One of which was when my divorce happened, and it was definitely a martial arts moment for a long year. I was in school full-time, working full-time, and going through a full-time divorce. And it was just every day knowing all right, it's one foot in front of the other. I've done so many other things. This will carry me through. I have the strength and the perseverance and the courage and the respect for myself to do and to absolutely rock all of those. And I graduated with honors, through all of that.
Oh,
thank you.
You guys know what I mean by, so Rhonda, how do you get through the moment or the day where you're just like, I don't freaking feel like it today? Like, how do you do it anyway?
The same way that you get your black belt, you show up. You're just, I don't care what you feel like. I don't care, because most of the time, and especially this, I'm sure we've all been there, and Solmaz kind of touched on this a little earlier, like, why don't you just skip a night of practice or whatever? You just show up. And somehow, within a few minutes of being on that mat with your training partners and the other strong women that you see in the room and the kids that you're wanting to set a good example for, and the instructors that you don't want to let down, all of a sudden, boop, it flips. And that's how you do it. It's 1 minute at a time, and just show up.
Yeah, it's showing up is 95% of life, right? Stephanie, talk to me about a win you've had because you persevered.
Well, this past year, about a win. I mean, 2015 was in and of itself amazing. It was the first year our team had decided that we were going to compete at nationals, and we put out a plan, and we did it, and we went to qualifier, and the 9-time defending heavyweight champ kicked my tail. I'm like, good gracious, I've been sparring, I've been beating everybody else. And then my son reminded me, my beautiful 12-year-old son at that time, around that age, well, no, he's probably 14, said to me, Mom, you learn more from losing than you do winning. Remember what you tell your children, they will eventually come back and tell you. And so I took that to heart, got in the gym, and just went. And my goal when I got to nationals, you know what my goal was when I went to nationals? My goal wasn't to win. My goal was to score 1 point. One. I just wanted to score 1 point. 1 against her. I just wanted to score. And then we were scheduled to go at 11. And then all of a sudden we got moved up to 8:30. We're all looking at each other going, is your body 20 anymore? Is yours 20? No, neither is mine. So we all started warming up. We got ready. I hadn't had coffee yet, so I'm not a happy camper. Get in there. We do this, and we have some malfunctions. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just don't. And I'm like, wait a second. Little birdies in my head going, you've come too far and worked too hard to do this. So I got in there, and again, my goal was not to win. My goal was to score. One. That's it. That was going to be my shining glory, beat all the college things I'd done in sports and everything. I got in there, and I am a heavyweight. I am not a middleweight. I'm not a lightweight. I'm not a featherweight or a finweight. I nailed her with a front roundhouse kick and scored my points. And then I defended, and I won 2-1. And the thing was, after that, which is still kind of not fully there even 6 years later, my coach was more excited about my win than I was. Literally, he was. And his wife, who was our coach, our Pumse coach, was standing there with a cup of coffee, and I grabbed it out of her hand and said, now I can be happy. It hit me later that it was okay to be proud to win and to be it, because my kid and the kids in the group that were there to see me win were all screaming and jumping, and I was kind of like, why am I so indifferent? Why was that? I was not jumping for joy. I was not like, and it took a while to really sink in, because I always had that feeling that I can't be proud of myself. I can't be proud of my accomplishments. It's like, that's what you're supposed to do. You work hard, you do that, and this is what happens. And so through that, and then through this year, I've learned to be, hell yes, I'm a badass woman. And hell yes, everything I do is fabulous. I may not always be right. It may not always be beautiful, but it works. It really
that. I love that so much. Yes, it's good to step into that a bit. Listen, we're taught to not brag. We're taught to be humble. We're taught, unfortunately, to not celebrate sometimes, or at least that's what we make that mean.
Yeah, I think we're given a false definition of humility, though.
Mm.
There's humble, and then there's let me hide away from my accomplishments and not claim them and not own them.
Yes. Yes. All right, Joe, let's hear a win from your perseverance.
For me, I mean, it's hard to follow some of those stories, to be honest. For me, it's not about the big things that I've achieved. The perseverance is the day-to-day stuff, and the fact that I can teach perseverance to my children because they've seen me persevere through something that was really hard. And I think that has been more apparent than ever in this past year. You know, the whole COVID year thing was hard for us as a family, really hard. The kids haven't been at school. We've all been living under the same roof. And it's been tough. And actually, I have had to dig deeper than ever before, working full time, homeschooling my children, and managing a family all at the same time. I have needed that perseverance to just sometimes get through the day. So, although it doesn't feel like a massive glorified win, it was a win for us as a family because we didn't break because I could persevere.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're probably reading my mind. So let me stick with you for this wrap up question that we're going to talk about today. I'm going to get around to all of you for this, but it has been a really hard year. We had what we had before COVID started, and those were some pretty big problems for some of us. And then we got dumped on with this thing that we couldn't have even imagined. And the anxiety that it's brought on for people, the loss of loved ones and the loss of jobs. And I mean, we could go on and on about the struggles that were added to what we already had. And you all know that the skills you've learned in your martial arts practice in the dojang, with that family that you love so much, have helped you deal with these, these big moments, especially something that I don't think anyone was really truly ready for. So Joe, for the listener who's still really struggling, what is something, and an easy way that you could guide them with some words of support in terms of, words of support? I'll leave it there.
I think when I started my martial arts journey, I felt weak. Inside, I felt weak and I felt broken. And going through this journey, yes, I've had support from my family, I've had support from my martial arts family, but ultimately it was down to my own strength that got me to make those achievements. And what I would say to anybody that's struggling is that you have so much inner strength that you just need to find. And however you find it, be it through martial arts or singing or dancing or whatever it is that really makes you passionate, all you need to do is find that thing that makes you passionate, because then you find your strength and then you find who you are, and then you can truly love yourself. And that's what it's all about.
I love that. That yes, I'll say yes with an exclamation point to that. Solmaz, how about you? What are some words of support to listeners who might be still struggling with something that's helped you on your journey?
I don't know if this is particularly, martial arts related per se, but can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, but I guess it would be that we can have it all, perhaps not all at the same time, but we can have it all sometimes one thing or two things at a time. So I guess have faith in that.
I love that. We can have it all, you guys. Maybe not all at the same time, but
we can. At the end of the day, we can. So.
I love it. Rhonda, how about you?
I would say, martial arts or otherwise, just to take a moment and realize that you're worth it. You individually, not just your family or your friends or the people that rely on you. You are worth the effort that it takes to show up for your life.
Yes, you guys are brilliant. I love that, Rhonda. Thank you. Stephanie, any words of support? Somebody listening who might still be struggling a bit?
It's okay to not be okay. I think that we've gotten to the point that we forget our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our desires, our wants, our everything. They are important. They have value. We need to stop devaluating everything that we've got. We have those emotions for reasons, but it's the way we project them, handle them, and act upon them, because every reaction is a choice. You can have that instant shock moment, but then you have to decide, okay, how did I take that? Why did I take it that way? And how do I get that across, or is it even worth doing? Because there's some things over this past year, there is not anything for me to say to a person's face or in their ear, because they are where they are. They're not ready to hear that. They're not willing to accept that, and that it's okay to not be okay, because it's part of the journey. It's part of the growth. And sometimes, maybe just sometimes, there's a piece, there's that wound, there's that part that you need to open up so that you can heal that part, so that everything can come back and be connected. And this past year for me, as being a Black woman, has just been astoundingly hard. Plus being in the medical community, plus me feeling that kindness and humanity is a freaking choice. Hate is a choice. Love is a choice. I choose love. I don't have time to waste on hate, because it draws away from the very spirit and the colorfulness and the brightness that life is there for. Does that mean I don't get down? No, but I'm not going to let that win. I'm not going to let what somebody else thinks about me because of the color of my skin affect me, because my honest answer to this is, that's your problem. Your prejudice, your hate, your disregard for other people is your problem. Do not come step to my door. You will not like what comes back. And it'll be maybe a truth that you may not want to see. But all in all, we're fabulous. Women, we need to embrace our fabulousness. And the biggest thing I saw this year is, well, I've seen for a while, is that ladies, we teach men how to treat us based on how we treat each other. And if we start uplifting each other and holding each other high and cheering each other for the accomplishments that we make, instead of dragging us down, guess what? Those men are going to say, wait, they're not going to tolerate our mess. They're going to kick our butts to the curb or not even talk to us at all. We're going to say, yeah, bye-bye. I don't have time for that. What I have time for is embracing and loving and uplifting all of you and everybody else that I encounter, because every human being is amazing and every encounter has a purpose. Whether it starts out good or bad, every encounter has a purpose, and it's how you see it and embrace it that makes it whatever it becomes.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to repeat two of her words: choose love. Ladies, thank you all so much for what you're doing in the world and for being here today to share it with everybody. So you guys, listeners, don't forget to tune in for our live stream book launch party on the Brave Badass Healers Facebook page, March 16th, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have some matching paperback copies that day. Those sales will be matched, and I'll be donating some books to the Light of Truth Center on the 16th. That's an organization here in Baltimore, Maryland, that helps recovering women get back on their feet. Super happy that Black Belt Women is going to be going into those libraries. That's going to be fun. Of course, if you're listening to this podcast after the 16th, well, that means the book is ready. So you better head on down to the show notes and grab your copy, where all of our experts are hooked up as well. I have websites and social links for you guys. So something that one of these amazing women said today really sparked some inspiration. Go explore. Go find them, have a conversation, take it to the next step. They will be, I'm sure, interested in understanding how you felt about what they said and about their book chapter, which are all brilliant, you guys. So lastly, I love to close out this show with a big juicy question. So here it is. What if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? You'll be finding a few of those somethings in this new book, you guys. Be brave. See you next time, ladies.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.
Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.